Good morning, welcome back. This is Daybreak and thank you for staying with us. The hashtag on X is Citizen Daybreak. The SMS code is 22422 at Citizen TV Kenya and at Ayub Abdikadir. On my immediate right is Fwamba NC Fwamba. He is the chair of the National Alternative Forum. Good morning.
Good morning.
Lovely having you here.
Pleasure.
Welcome to the broadcast and Citizen Television. Sandra Njoki is political and governance commentator. Sandra, good morning.
Good morning.
Lovely having you here on the broadcast.
Franklin
Mukwanja is the executive director at the Center for Multi-Party Democracy. Franklin, good morning.
Thank you for having me.
We had confirmed the presence of the Homa Bay Town MP, Peter Opondo Kaluma, but he is a no-show up until now here on the broadcast. Nonetheless, the show proceeds. Ladies and gentlemen, much happened yesterday, and in a session that ended at 11:15 late into the night. And you all saw what happened during the cross-examination session, Franklin, Sandra and Fwamba here, and what appears to be the Senate's assumption of quasi-judicial status, and how the DP early in the morning suffered yet another court blow yesterday when the three-judge bench presided over by Eric Ogola and made up by Justices Anthony Mrima and Frida Mugambi said no to the orders he sought to hold the Senate proceedings. But first, Sandra, coming to you, we had yesterday seen, is it a classical separation of the wheat from the chaff?
Yes, I think there was a very clear separation of, as you put it, the wheat from the chaff. I believe that the Parliament side did come out very clearly to re-articulate the accusations that they have set against the Deputy President. Unfortunately, I think the side that sort of like, should I say, tried to dust off or to desecrate the whole process, if you ask me, was the side of the Deputy President. Because when their lawyers stood up, especially Ndegwa, Jiro, he failed to focus on the substance of the matters that had been raised. And they focused more on trying to be bullies and intimidating, for example, Mutuse. Because when you ask questions that are outside of the issues that he had raised, for instance, I don't know, I found it bullying. I found it a lot of bullying. The Parliament brought their issues, and the other side was just shouting down Mutuse, and they found a very soft punch in him. If you ask me, they didn't build a case, because what the Deputy President's side is building is that I did this mistake because my predecessor did the same mistake before. That cannot be a defense.
Yeah. And given what we had seen, which were on display yesterday, Franklin, coming to you, unlike the National Assembly, there was a degree, is it, of getting into the substratum of what was contained in the motion, the very critical re-evaluation of the very same motion that was tabled at the National Assembly by Mwengi Mutuse, and how detailed the questions were during the cross-examination process. Are we likely to see a substantial outcome of the Senate, whichever way it votes today in the evening, and how that can be a precedent setting given what happened yesterday and what may happen today on day two?
Yep. One is that we have to acknowledge that we are a constitutional democracy. And the actions by the judges in the morning, I think, was well placed. In my view, the judicial restraint exercised and the declaration that they have unfettered power and inviting the DP to come back to court thereafter. The Senate's decision is a good ruling, and it's a good decision, it's a good precedent going forward. The second thing is that the two houses, the National Assembly and the Senate, have different roles. The National Assembly it's not a trial chamber, and therefore there wasn't room for the cross-examination. And that is the opportunity that the Senate presents us. And cross-examination is not the art of examining crossly. It is actually leading a witness through a series of propositions, a series of questions that he could or she could agree with. And of course, the tactic is to nail one fatal question to the one being cross-examined. And I think to that extent, the advocates of the deputy president are doing their bit according to the instructions, because one of the major accusations levied on the deputy president is about using his huge infrastructure of companies to launder money and make sure that corrupt practices are not traced. And therefore, punching holes in that is critical. To what extent that is going to change? I think it will be miraculous for the deputy president to survive, because this is still largely a political process. And the appearance of the senior counsel, James Orengo, is not just for optics' sake. It is a political maneuver that is being clear. If you follow the patterns of the voting in the National Assembly, and if you look at the way the policies are playing out and the numbers in the Senate, UDA has 30, ODM has 20, UDA has 32, ODM has 20. That is already past the threshold. The threshold. And I do not think that they are going to let off the foot from the gas pedal. They are going to pursue it and to the full end. What now remains is to see the maneuver, because this impeachment, one thing that has remained clear, that in the silence of President William Ruto that has been very uncharacteristic, there has been a very, very powerful scream in that silence. And you can see it coming out. The summoning of the National Assembly to sit tomorrow, you can clearly see through the strategy that possibly it is the usual, Ruto's political scheming that use the long weekend, get the Senate possibly done with the job today. The National Assembly gets the name tomorrow morning, does it. There's no court sitting on Saturday, right? So possibly the only opportunity the deputy president has is to rush to court tomorrow if the Senate makes that decision today, so that he can stop that process.
And the long weekend extends, is it, until Monday, because Sunday is Mashujaa Day? Yes. Then, Franklin, in terms of the institutional building that we all desire as a nation to progress and to prosper, you said this in the end will be determined by the political test of what transpires at the Senate. What then happens to the substance? Because unlike the National Assembly, yes, there is an appreciation that the Senate is a trial chamber and it's a quasi-judicial, it assumes a quasi-judicial status. Then what happens to the substance of what was presented before the House, given the cross-examination that we witnessed yesterday, and to a similar degree which may happen today, and the only witness will be the Deputy President?
I mean, this is a very interesting scenario. That's where I began, that we are a constitutional democracy and we should allow and enjoy this process, that we are testing the elasticity and the limits of our constitution. But if you look through it, you realize several things. That one, this is a political process. Impeachment by nature is a political process. The civil and criminal liability that is expected, anticipated of such a process may not be what we anticipate in a pure judicial process. And therefore, being a political process, we are going to get a political solution. And even when the matter gets to the judiciary, gets back to the judiciary, and the court is moved to the level that they say that this was largely a political process, but then the constitutional threshold was not met. I still think that the judiciary will find it difficult to reinstate the deputy president, because how do they force them to work together? Possibly they may find ways around circumventing around it, calling it not an impeachment and allowing him to, for instance, enjoy the perks of a former DP, not impeached, and possibly allowing him to contest in future for public office.
Yes.
But how do they make a decision that will force the president and the deputy to work together?
All right.
It's remotely impossible if you look at it. So it will largely end up a political thing.
Yes.
And regardless of what happens, I think the goose is cooked.
Okay. Fomba, coming to you. President William Ruto has not in any way talked about the impeachment of his deputy since this matter was canvassed in political boardrooms, then came to the National Assembly, and now at the Senate. Today is the final day. In effect, is he the silent mover of this motion?
Not necessarily, because whatever we are dealing with there is structured and based on the Constitution. The Constitution does not provide for any utterance from the president as a factor in the proceedings of what is going on. But I think he also wants to keep off so that it does not look like he's interfering with the process, or does not look like he's an interested party in any way. The deputy president, in my opinion, right now at this point, is cornered because there's a pattern. For the last 2 or 3 weeks, he has just been losing. You see, if he has lost more than 26 cases, and now is before the Senate, where he seeks justice, and things are going the way they are going, there's no likelihood that he's going to survive. For example, he has the best lawyers in town. People like Elisha Ongoya are some of the best lawyers. But unfortunately, the only thing they are focusing on right now is trying to harass or intimidate the other side so that they look like they are winning the case before the public eye. But going by whatever is happening right now, there's no likelihood for them to win.
So we'll talk about the cross-examination, which was done yesterday. Still, we have one to go. And because of having no prophetic skill to prophesize how the DP's cross-examination may look like today, being the only witness. So we'll just be about the substance of what happened yesterday. Then when you say that, yes, the president is not the mover of this motion, certainly he has no role whatsoever. He himself can be a casualty of that process because that power is granted Parliament by Katiba. But politically, I even did put this question to the Deputy President as to whether this has the blessings of the head of state, given that he said on 20th September that no such motion can end up in Parliament without the sanctioning of the head of state at the parliamentary group level. And he said, yes, it has it.
Politically speaking, the president is not anywhere in this mix from where I stand, because as provided for in the Constitution, and the allegations that have been leveled against the deputy president so far have nothing to do with the president, but they look at the bigger picture. Like insubordination of the president is something that touches the president directly. So if he ever came out and started talking about it, it looked like he's aggrieved as an individual. But whatever is being pursued by the parliament is how the deputy president has violated the Constitution. The only time the president is allowed to come in is at the point where he'll be naming the next deputy president, whom he'll be able to work with comfortably so that the country progresses in its developmental agenda.
All right. Because there's a very important subject, I want us to also sift through, ladies and gentlemen, about the shareholding question and some of the defense ground that were yesterday laid at the Senate by the defense team of the Deputy President. We'll be getting that soundbite shortly. Ready? Yes. So let's play, then we'll respond to that.
Hapa Murang'a mumenipatia waziri ambaye anasimamia fedha yote ya Kenya. Anaitwa Profesa Njuguna Ndung'u. Hapa Murang'a mumenipatia chairman ambaye anakusanya ushuru yote Kenya. Anaitwa Bwana Maura, anatoka hapa Kandara. Na nyinyi watu wa Murang'a, waziri wa maji ndio huyu yuko hapa. Kwa hivyo kama kuna watu shareholders wakubwa wa hii serikali ni watu wa Murang'a. Na hiyo kazi nyingine yote tutahakikisha kwamba inatimia.
Stop there.
Watu wa Murang'a tumekubaliana.
Honorable Mutuse.
Answer.
Who was speaking in that video?
The President of the Republic of Kenya, William Ruto.
What words did he use?
Republic of Kenya, William Ruto.
What words did he use? What did he say to the people of Murang'a?
That he has appointed many of their locals into his government.
Did he say, nyinyi watu wa Murang'a ni shareholders wakubwa wa hii serikali?
Yes, he did.
He did.
Yes.
And what, among other things, is one of the primary duties of the Deputy President?
To deputize for the president.
To assist that the Deputy President use words in support of something the President himself said. How does that become insubordination?
I have not said that the Deputy President used words in support of what the President said.
So when the President says to the people of Murang'a and not to the people of, say, Makueni, that nyinyi ni shareholders wakubwa wa serikali, is the President's words likely to incite ethnic hatred, violence? Rwanda, are the President's words likely to turn us to Rwanda, as you suggested?
The President is not on trial.
Sorry?
The President is not on trial.
Oh, I see.
Yes, Fomba, what do you say to that?
There are two different contexts here.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Like you see, the president is talking about people of Murang'a being shareholders in the government. Mm-hmm. He has not talked about those who are not shareholders. It's very different from what the deputy president has been narrating, moving around, talking about. Remember when he was in West Pokot at some point, he told the Honorable Kamuket, you are not shareholders. The deputy president usually talks about those who have shares, who have more, who have less, and those who do not have. So it is possible that the president could as well come to Bungoma and say, you people are also shareholders, or go to Teso and say, you people are part of this government. There's no point in Murang'a where he stated that there is a place in this country where people are not part and parcel of this government. So those are two different narratives.
Okay.
And again, I agree with the Honorable Mutuse that it is not the president who is on trial right now. It's the deputy president. So if there is anyone who has those concerns about the president's utterances, telling the people of Murang'a being part of the shareholders of this government, then they can bring it forth. But at this point, we're dealing with the deputy president is the issue.
Okay, as a representative of the National Alternative Forum, is it fair when the president awards 7 cabinet ministers from the same region?
From where I stand, you know, at the beginning of the Kenya Kwanza administration, they said, I was not in Kenya Kwanza, I was in Azmio, but they said they had their pact, like it always happens in all other democracies. And they agreed to share the government in certain proportions. Yeah.
I have the agreements here, so we'll go through word for word.
But with the time,
I have them here with me, just a form up.
But with the time, that document was used for campaigns.
Yeah.
Like in all campaigns, the language used during campaigns is very different from the language used during governing. Once you're elected, you govern according to the wishes of the whole population, because you are everybody's leader, as opposed to when you are campaigning to get the votes that are majority from their opponent.
Point taken. I have the agreements here with me, so we'll go through. There's no problem about that. Sandra, this exposes the underbelly, is it, of Kenya's political establishment and the governance membership who have abjectly failed to prioritize service delivery. Is it? In other words, they're washing their dirty linen in the Kenyan public.
Well, before I go to your question, I need to clarify something that I believe you have repeatedly asked this morning about the president's silence.
Yeah.
And in my opinion, as the rest of my colleagues have said, it is a political process. It was initiated by Parliament. And if you remember, when Parliament initiated it, they actually came up and told the president, if I may use the word, warned the president that you should not interfere in this particular process, for the simple reason that you forced our hand to retract the finance bill. This time around, we're not going to allow you to interfere with the parliamentary process. So I believe not only is he as an individual probably chosen to keep quiet and let a constitutional process take place, but he has also been demanded by an independent institution or an independent arm of government not to interfere. So I think it's very important that Kenyans understand where this man is at. Mm-hmm. And on top of that, I also feel that there's a third reason, because there's one particular thing that we all seem to forget. there were threats of impeachment. But when was this threat eventually enacted? When Kate Waruguru stood up in Githurai and said, Ruto must go. Okay? In any political scene, even on a legal standpoint, I probably stand to be corrected. The moment you declare that a certain president has to go, it's not a campaign season, you do not have an impeachment motion on him, you do not have a court case on him, then I believe that you're talking about a coup process. And of course, that is what prompted the parliamentarians to decide, we're going to do this. In that case, this is a human being, the president we're talking about. So when he stands there and he saw his deputy in a public gathering with someone by his side saying, Ruto must go, he's obviously, if you ask me, bound to also be silenced, probably dumbfounded. You know, how did we get this far? So I believe I needed to clarify that part of the silence. When it comes to the issue of we've got that the leaders are washing their dirty linen in public, I really don't see it that way. I think it's more of we're seeing the Constitution coming to its full fruition, where both legislatures and Wanjiku are bold enough to face a senior official in government at the level of a deputy president to tell him you're doing wrong, and we're going to get you out of there. Because if we say it's washing dirty linen, then what we're saying is that when a senior government official makes a mistake or makes grave mistakes, which I believe what the deputy president is being accused of are grave mistakes, issues that are touching on integrity, issues that are touching on corruption, issues that are touching on disrespecting the very top office of this country, issues that are touching on ethnic balkanization. Those are very serious allegations. And if today Wanjiku can stand up, go for a public participation and say, go ahead, let's have it all out there, you know, let's hear everything he has done. It doesn't matter what else comes out, you know, in the process of hearing or explaining or elaborating on his misdemeanors, then I think it's a good thing. The Constitution is at work.
Okay, at work, and we'll talk about how far we can stretch our Constitution in terms of its operation when we get back from the break. Franklin, I'll begin with you because we have to go through a lot given what will be happening today and some of the outcome of day one of the impeachment trial against the deputy president, which happened at the Senate yesterday and is set to conclude today at the Senate in the session that will be kickstarting from 9 a.m. You're watching Daybreak. The hashtag on X is Citizen Daybreak. The SMS code is 22422 at Citizen TV Kenya and at Ayub Abdikadir. We are back with more after the break. Stay tuned.